getting help. We're still in the part about what do we do if we get a yes? And after we persuade them to stay alive and persuade them to get help, now we need to go get them help and make a good referral. Outside of school, referrals can look like a lot of different things. One way is that we take them to the person who knows them and loves them best, someone close to them, a family member. And we can also always call the 988 crisis line. This is a national hotline. It's been around for a couple of years. You should have it memorized or put in your phone because it's 24/7. You can call or text. It's good for you or your kids or anybody else that you know. It's also not just for suicides. It could be any kind of crisis or need of support, and they'll help you out. And finally, if it's a real crisis, of course, we call 911 or we go to the hospital. Inside school, our referral becomes pretty easy. We refer to the counselor. That's easy enough, right? The first thing, though, is we don't send an email and we don't call and leave a message. We need to make sure this referral gets through. So we call and talk to them directly, or we walk down and speak to them, and we walk the student down if necessary. And if the counselor's not available, then we must hand them off to someone else on the suicide prevention team, like your administrator, a school nurse, an SRO, whoever's on your team there. And then we make sure that the student gets seen and assessed that day and as soon as possible. Counselors will interview, and they generally use the Columbia Suicide Severity Screener as their tool to decide the risk that student has. And they will safety plan and call home and make referrals. And we need to make sure that somebody calls home. The counselors will do that for you. But if they're not available, someone needs to make sure that the parents are notified. This is our suicide intervention protocol flowchart. We love it. It tells you everything you need to know. And to find it, you can go to My Coeur d'Alene Schools, pause here, open up another tab, and find this if you'd like. Click on Departments, then on Counseling, then on Confidential Documents, where all of our confidential documents live. And then in Folder 7 is our Suicide and Self-Harm Resources, and the QPR flowchart is in there. We also have this flowchart in all of the SERP manuals, the big ones in the main office, and all of the smaller emergency manuals that you take out for like fire drills. You will have this flowchart in that, which is posted in rooms all over the school. Okay, so what's this flowchart do? First, it tells us our steps. So if we have a concern, we've looked for verbal, behavioral, and situational clues. Our radar is up. We noticed a sign, and good, we notice. Then we ask the question. And if we're not going to ask it, we find someone who will. And we can ask it in these ways. Remember, the words don't matter. It's the tone and the feel of the conversation that matters. But we make sure that somebody will go to that student or that staff member and ask the question. If we get a yes, we persuade them to stay alive and we persuade them to get help. And finally, we refer the student to the school counselor. Remember, not sending an email, we walk them down, and there you go. Then you see the stop. After that, as a Coeur d'Alene staff member, your job is done. School counselors or members of the suicide prevention team will take over from there. So thank you for your participation today. We have a short quiz coming up, and our final reminders and takeaways are this, that suicide prevention is for everyone. It's not just the really tough kids or the ones from the hardest places. It is also our very high achieving students. It's also our staff members and our administrators and our parents and our neighbors. It's all around us. Remember that when you ask about suicide in a caring way, it lowers risk for people. It normalizes being able to talk about it. It shows someone that someone cares. It releases a burden from people, and then they're more likely to get help. When you give someone hope and show you care, you have done a really good job. And then, of course, none of these conversations can ever be private. When we're talking about suicide, we have to share it. We can't promise anyone we'll keep that information confidential. Thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate all that you do, and have a wonderful year, everyone.